May Allah bless the Shibli family itself. May Allah bless the Shibli parents and the parents of all the audiences who have joined us from day one itself. As regard the timeline goes, we have a 20-minute time slot for the Quran sessions and 40-minute time slot is for the speaker tonight, and the floor belongs to Imam Muhammad. Jazakallah khair of that.
جزاكم الله خير جزاك عبد المجيد وتقبل الله منا ومنكم ان شاء الله. أخي يزيد السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كيف حالك يا أخي اليوم؟
الحمد لله رب العالمين. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا، نورك غطى على الكهرباء.
الله يبارك فيك، نورك نور الشمس والقمر بإذن الله.
آمين آمين إن شاء الله رب العالمين جميعا يا رب.
سورة الحجرات إن شاء الله.
نعم سورة الأخلاق إن شاء الله.
ما شاء الله نخلصها صفحة ونص تقريبا، صفحتين ونص.
فإن نخلصها وننزل على غيرها.
الله أكبر. يلا الرسل بيدكم، تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. إن الذين يغضون أصواتهم عند رسول الله أولئك الذين امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم. إن الذين ينادونك من وراء الحجرات أكثرهم لا يعقلون. ولو أنهم صبروا حتى تخرج إليهم لكان خيرا لهم والله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. واعلموا أن فيكم رسول الله لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان وزينه في قلوبكم وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمة والله عليم حكيم. وإن طائفتان من المؤمنين اقتتلوا فأصلحوا بينهما فإن بغت إحداهما على الأخرى فقاتلوا التي تبغي فقاتلوا التي تبغي حتى تفيء إلى أمر الله، فإن فاءت فأصلحوا بينهما بالعدل وأقسطوا إن الله يحب المقسطين. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب، بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلدكم من أعمالكم شيئا إن الله غفور رحيم. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين. إن الله يعلم غيب السماوات والأرض والله بصير بما تعملون. صدق الله العظيم.
فتح الله عليكم فتوح العارفين.
اللهم آمين يا رب.
وزادكم الله من فضله ورحم الله والديكم ووالديكم.
اللهم آمين يا رب العالمين جميعا إن شاء الله.
You are mute, Sheikh Muhammad. You are mute.
سامعك يا شيخ محمد.
الله يعيننا ويعينكم على ختم القرآن قبل رمضان إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله إن شاء الله بإذن الله رب العالمين. نسأل الله القبول يا رب.
إن شاء الله. هذه الختمة الثالثة. معك خبر؟
الحمد لله ما شاء الله. اللهم لك الحمد يا رب.
ختم فؤاد ختم مرة وأنت ختمت الثانية وهلأ بادين بالثالثة إن شاء الله.
يا الله يا رب يا رب. الله إن شاء الله نختم مرات ومرات عديدة يا رب إن شاء الله.
هذه بركة القرآن. الحمد لله.
الحمد لله جزاكم الله.
محمد السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
تفضل يا أخي.
الله يزيد فضلك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على هديه إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Our dear respected Imam, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, allowed me to greet all of you the Islamic greeting and the meaning of this greeting to our viewer locally, nationally, internationally, to say peace and the blessing of Allah be upon you all. And when we repeat this greeting, Muslim to Muslim, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Chapter 49, Surah Al-Hujurat. Today, Sheikh Abu Yazid gave this surah another title, and the title is Surah Al-Akhlaq, the title of behavior and character. And the word khuluq, akhlaq, that is the one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. Indeed, O Prophet of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide you with the greatest behavior among the human being. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the 18 verses, 1-8 of Surah Al-Hujurat, you can sit down by yourself. No Zoom, no Sheikh, no Imam, no sister, no brother, and try to take a pen or a pencil and try to take your notebook and start reading this surah letter by letter, word by word, ayah by ayah, and start collect from this surah all the good behavior and some other bad behavior from the bad one with good intention, and make a list for yourself. What are the good behavior I have to hold it? عضوا عليها بالنواجذ, استمسكوا فيها, hold those behavior and start practicing them one by one, and I will start with the easiest one. But the other bad behavior, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about those individual as a bad one to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam behind the door or behind the wall. Try not to do exactly what they used to do. And let us take some of, because Imam Jamal Shibli long time ago spoke about this. I believe Brother Mubeen many times, Brother Niyaz, Sheikh Muhammad, everybody, Surah Al-Hujurat was the focus for our behavior and our character. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In this surah, some other note, you will find many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke only to the believer as he spoke to his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he called the word al-Arab, and he gave the definition who are the true believers. One of the khuluq, the good character, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala order us to do, you will never ever put your decision or your thought without counseling the Quran Kareem and the Sunnah, and don't say this is my opinion if the Quran and the Sunnah spoke about it. Looks like I need to repeat it for myself one more time. Allah already covered that subject. Rasulullah ﷺ already covered that subject, confirming with the Quran. Why we have to bring something in you and he or she said, that is my opinion? No, my dear brothers and sisters. In verse number 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la tuqaddimu bayna yaday Allahi wa rasulih. O you who believe, leave your decision after the decision of Allah and the decision of his Prophet Muhammad sallam, and don't proceed before you counsel with the Quran and the Sunnah. Other thing Rasulullah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us, yes, we are speaking, making our voice loudly a little bit, maybe the people to hear. After the age of 40, you need something to support your ears. Yeah, sometimes we raise our voice. But don't raise your voice in the presence of Rasulullah. Don't raise your voice in the presence of your parent. Don't raise your voice too much in the presence of your scholar. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawt an-nabi. There is a rafa' sawt, raising the voice, and the word jahr, which means too much loud. And it has bothered me many times when only 2-3 people in the location or in the masjid, and one brother will go to the microphone and he starts shouting. Ya akhi, only 3-4 people, why you are raising your voice too much? Be careful about it. Rafa sawt something and jahr something. ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض. Between you each other, you can talk with any way. Whisper between yourself. But don't use that with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you use that, all your good deeds have no weight in the scale. تحبطوا, which means your good deeds will go down أعمالكم without knowing that وأنتم لا تشعرون. For the believers who are in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they don't raise their voice in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them a test to know how much iman they have in their heart. إن الذين يغضون أصواتهم عند رسول الله أولئك الذين امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى. There is a taqwa, there is a qalb, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, التقوى لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم. Allah will forgive them and give them a great reward in this dunya and the akhirah. Now about the bad behavior, the bad akhlaq. A group of Bedouin, I will say with good intention, maybe you don't know, came to the houses of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they start screaming loudly, Ya Muhammad ukhruj ilayna. They call him by his name and they said, get out of the house, we like to meet with you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't do that. إن الذين ينادونك من وراء الحجرات أكثرهم لا يعقلون. They don't know what they are doing. And if they have be patient little bit, ولو أنهم صبروا حتى تخرج إليهم لكان خيرا لهم والله غفور رحيم. If they have sabr till you leave your house in the time you're leaving to go to the masjid, to go to your job, to go to your office, to go anywhere, that will be better for them instead starting calling you by name Muhammad and get out from your house. And it has happened, my dear brothers and sisters, in the time Rasulullah sallam, one of the Sahabi, one day he raised his voice in front of Rasulullah sallam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed those verses, he went to his house and he said, I will never go back to the masjid. I will never pray. I will never face Rasulullah sallam. I will never raise my voice because I am got lost. Why I have to go there? Till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the message to Rasulullah sallam. He called that Sahabi and he said to him, now Allah forgive you, come back to your jama'ah. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we are living on the time of the media, and the media can do many fabricated issues. And the latest video I saw part of it, then I saw the complete video. Really, it made me scared. The people cut that speech. The entire speech became against the speaker. But when you hear all the speech by the speaker, you will say he is among the best speaker who practiced verse 13, verse 12 from Surah Al-Hujurat. Ya ayyuhan nasu, verse 13. Ya ayyuhan nasu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum 'inda Allahi atqakum. Imam, what is that bad behavior? When you hear some news from some person, try to verify that news. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Which means don't believe everything you heard it. Every article you read it, you said that is true from right sources. No. We have the Quran, we have the Sunnah, we have authentic hadiths. We have to follow with that, inshallah ta'ala. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, regardless of our color or our shape or our gender, the Quran Kareem told us you are believer and you are brothers and sisters. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. And Allah revealed this ayah to Rasulullah after, looks like two groups of believers. Wal-iyazu billah, they fought with each other. One of them stay on the right on the right side, the other one stay on the left side. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, go stay with the right people and make a peace with them. If you are making peace with them and consider them, you are a brother and they are your brother in the same time. The rest of the surah, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, every coming 3 verses, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmin min qawm. Every word, it is related to a behavior. As Abu Yazid says, Surah Al-Akhlaq, if that behavior is good, try to do it. If the behavior is bad, stay away from it. Verse 13, verse 12, and verse 11, those are the main point in this surah. Wallahu a'lam. Every word is main point. But for our activity, for our daily life, let us live with those 3 verses, inshallah ta'ala. And finally, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, if you like to know who are you, man anta, man anti, man nahnu, read from this surah, verse number 15, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the definition of the believer. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. Few item in this ayah. Believer, we have to believe in Allah. Believer, we have to believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Believer, we have to strive to be a better person through our money and through our soul and nafs. Then if we do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the title to be among as-sadiqeen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وبركاته. الشيخ محمد جزاك الله خير وزادكم الله من فضله إن شاء الله. جزاكم الله
وإياكم.
خير. Brother Mubeen, السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
تفضل يا أخي.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري وحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace and mercies, for His gifts. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you attempt to count the gifts of Allah, you will never be able to number them. We should remember this with our families, with our children, with our grandchildren, inshallah. We should remind them all the time. Tonight, inshallah, let's complete the discussion on justice. This would be the 4th week we've been emphasizing justice in Islam. We've been talking about the beautiful dimensions of justice, the beautiful faces of justice, the beautiful appearance of justice. Today, I like to conclude by considering another 5 or 6 beautiful faces, examples of justice. Again, this is not just a good story. We should be looking at ourselves. Am I implementing justice where I can? In my dealings with people, in my dealings with my family, in my dealings with my supervisor, in my dealings with my employees, am I implementing justice? That is the emphasis on justice, inshallah. So number 1, the first beautiful face for this week I want to look at, there is justice even in revenge. Revenge is not just free for all. Let everything fly. There has to be justice in revenge. Surah 16, verse 126. Allah says, وَإِنْ آقَبْتُمْ فَآقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا أُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَئِنْ صَبَرْتُمْ لَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لِلصَّابِرِينَ. And if you catch them out no worse than they catch you out. But if you show patience, that is indeed the best cause for those who are patient. So even in taking revenge, you cannot exceed limits. We have to look at our limits at every instance in this exchange with humanity. Now we can understand why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mandated the laws of compassionate engagement. Even when he sent his army out, he gave them laws of limitation. You cannot exceed these limits. Don't destroy or steal property. Don't kill women, children, old men, and religious scholars. Don't cut down trees and destroy homes. Don't kill a wounded person. Never use disproportionate force. Where do we follow this today in life? When we look at the wars around the world, innocent children are being penalized for the faults of our politicians. So there is no restraint. There are no limits. In fact, Islam is so careful about this. We cannot even use indiscriminate force against any creation, including ants. Where does this come from? Where is this from? Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, said, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, an ant bit a prophet among prophets, and he ordered that the place of the ant, namely the habitation, should be burnt. And Allah sent him a message, sent him an inspiration. Is it because one ant bit you that you burnt a nation amongst the nations that glorify Allah? Because one ant bit you, you burnt a nation among the nations that glorify Allah. My respected Muslims, when we indiscriminately abuse, remember that animal, that insect could be glorifying Allah in its own way. Where does this come from? This is Sahih al-Bukhari, 3019, book 56, hadith 228. So this is not a joke. When we have to perform to limitations, even insects have a right in Islam. And here's another interesting thing. You can power boost your revenge to the highest levels of reward. How do you do that? I've come here for revenge, but Islam says you can power boost your revenge to the highest level of reward. Surah 42, verse 40. We're always going back to the book of all knowledge, to life's operating manual. وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا فَمَنْ أَفَا وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الظَّالِمِينَ. The recompense for an injury is an injury equal thereto. But if a person forgives and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah. For Allah loves not those who do wrong. So you can elevate your restraint to such a level that the reward comes directly from Allah. No intermediary, no angel is proofreading this and writing anything. This is directly from Allah. So revenge is something that gives you the opportunity to power boost your actions to the highest level. Look at how beautiful our deen is. My problem is I don't study it. I don't look at the fine ramifications, the finesse of this deen. That is why we are told it is the conclusion of all deens. It is perfect. Number two, another beautiful face of justice. Justice is social equality. Today we talk about social equality. We talk about racism. We talk about discrimination. But just look at Islam 1500 years ago. Palestine was conquered during the rule of Umar bin al-Khattab. To sign certain agreements with the conquered nation, he had to travel to Palestine. When he left Medina, he was wearing rough clothes, he had one servant, and he had one camel. Amirul Mu'mineen is going to sign certain contracts with the conquered nation. He's not going there with a full army. He's going there with one servant, one camel, and himself in travel clothes. When he left Medina, he said to his servant, if I mount the camel and you go on foot, that would be unfair to you. If you mount the camel and I go on foot, that would be unfair to me. If we both mount the camel, it will be unfair to the camel. So the best way for us to travel is to take turns. And so they traveled. Umar bin al-Khattab, Amirul Mu'mineen, will ride the camel while the servant walked. Then the servant would ride the camel and Umar bin al-Khattab will walk. And then they both will dismount and walk while the camel had a rest. And so they arrived at the gates of Palestine. And the people of Palestine gaped in amazement. Because who was riding the camel? At that stage, it was the servant's turn to ride the camel. And the camel, and Amirul Mu'mineen was leading the camel. In fact, they could not discern who was Amirul Mu'mineen and who was the servant. This is the definition of social equality. My respected Muslims, isn't that beautiful? Today, in this 21st century, we can learn lessons from the past, and it shines out even with all the social media. What has been reflected in the past still illuminates this great deen of ours. Amirul Mu'mineen knew the meaning of social equality. Today we've lost it. We don't know what it is. Just look at the killings, look at the happenings around, look at the headlines. We can learn from this deen. Number 3, justice brings out humility in a leader. We're talking about justice, and all of this comes back to justice. You know, today when you are appointed ruler, you appointed prime minister, you appointed president, what happens? There is an inauguration speech. There is a victory march. That's what happens. In other words, there is a ticker tape parade. Next week, when the winners of the Super Bowl are announced, what's there going to be? A ticker tape parade. When Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, was elected Amirul Mu'mineen, the first Amirul Mu'mineen, here is his victory speech. Here is his inauguration speech. Just listen to this extract. O people, I have been elected your leader, although I am not better than any one of you. If I do good, give me your support. If I go wrong, set me right. Obey me as long as I obey Allah and His Messenger. If I disobey Allah and His Messenger, you are free to disobey me. This is Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, his inauguration speech. Can there be better justice than this? Can there be greater humility than this? My respected Muslims, we have to copy this. This is what we have to realize when we talk to people, when we talk to our families, when we talk to our extended families. Umar bin al-Khattab was the second Amirul Mu'mineen. What was his inauguration speech? Again, we trace the force of humility and the force of justice coming through. He said, O people, I am but a trustee of your property and wealth, like a person who is the trustee of the property and wealth of an orphan child. I am here to look after you. Friends, you have certain rights over me, and you are fully allowed to claim your rights at any time. One of these rights is, don't allow me to misappropriate the indemnity tax and the booty. You have the right to check that the poor and the needy and the disabled amongst you have allowances for their livelihood. You have the right to make sure that the borders of the state are safe and that you are not in danger. In other words, I have been elected to serve you. These people drew a stipend from the treasury. They did not draw hundreds of thousands of dollars, a stipend to live. And they were appointed to defend their community. This is justice. This is how you become a leader. Islam goes into all the details. The onus is with me and us. We have to learn. Number 4, justice is to save life, even the lives of those who disobey you. You have to save life. even if you are saving the lives of those who call you enemy. The kuffar told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you say that Musa alayhi salam had a staff that caused 12 springs to gush forth from a rock. You say that Isa alayhi salam could raise the dead. You say that a camel emerged from the mountain for the nation of Thamud. Show us a miracle. Turn Mount Safa into gold. And if you show us a miracle, show us this miracle, we will follow you. We will accept what you say. Prove to us that you are the prophet. Of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam appealed to Allah to show them the miracle. Jibreel alayhi salam returned with two options. He said to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allah can change Mount Safa into gold in a moment. But if they do not follow you, Allah will visit them with a grievous penalty. Alternately, they can be left as they are to gradually mature into the deen, to mature, to accept the teachings in time. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at these two options and he said, I'm not going to show them the miracle. Why? Based on their reputation, he was sure that many of them would be visited by a grievous penalty. He chose not to show them the miracle. Sure, his reputation will be tarnished. He will be called a fake prophet. He will be called someone who could not deliver a miracle. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not there to inflict pain and suffering. He was definitely not there to cause the death even of those who did not obey him. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Look at this level of justice. He is prepared to have his reputation tarnished to protect others. My respected Muslims, where do I stand in this domain? I cannot come close. So this is the message in justice. If we practice justice, we will challenge ourselves to be excellent. And being excellent is what this deen is about. Whether they be Muslim, whether they be non-Muslim, whether they be insects and animals, justice prevails in this deen. Number 5, justice belongs to all, especially those who lay down their arms. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was relaxing under a tree, and a pagan crept up on him and drew his sword, drew Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's sword and challenged him. Who will save you from me? I got you. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam instinctively responded, Allah. And he said it with such forceful conviction that the pagan fumbled the sword, it fell to the ground. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a flash retrieved the sword and said to him, Aha, who will save you from me? The man says, be kind to your prisoner. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, will you testify that there is no God but Allah and Rasulullah is his messenger? The man said, no, but here's what I will do. I will not fight against you, nor will I join those who do. Although Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been attacked very cowardly, in a very cowardly fashion, he was virtually asleep, and this person attacked him. Although Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was perfectly positioned for revenge, remember he had the sword in his hand, and this man was begging for mercy. Although Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was experiencing a strong adrenaline rush, when somebody attacks you, adrenaline is pumping into your system. It's my life or the next person's life. Although that was the situation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam let the man go free. The man went back to his people and said, I've come to you from one of the best of mankind. What precipitated such forgiveness, such mercy? One verse from the book of Allah. One verse from man's operating manual. What is that verse? Surah 60, verse 8. لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم في دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليه إن الله يحب المقسطين. Allah forbids you not with regard to those who do not fight you for your faith nor drive you from your homes, from dealing with them justly. For Allah loves those who are just. My respected Muslims, in a time of adrenaline rush, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can look, remember an ayah and act on it. The final beautiful face I want to touch on is justice never bows to social status. Justice can never be the servant of social status. What do I mean by this? Osama bin Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, tried to intercede for a lady who belonged to a high-class family to prevent the punishment for her theft. She stole something. She was a member of a very high-class family, and Osama bin Zayd tried to intercede on her behalf so she would be saved. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what destroyed the nations preceding you was that if a noble amongst them stole, they would forgive him. And if a poor person amongst them stole, they would inflict Allah's punishment on him. By Allah, if Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, stole, I will cut off her hand. Al-Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari. My respected Muslims, the beauty of justice, the various faces of justice. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to practice this deen. Our salahs, our zakah, our fasting must propel us to the next level. And that is living the deen, not just acting out the deen in the masjid. Jazakumullahu khair. If there's any questions, anything you'd like me to repeat, this is the moment, this is the time. We'll have another topic next week, inshallah.
جزاكم الله خير brother Mubeen وأعاننا الله وأعانكم على العدل والعدالة والjustice إن شاء الله.
Ameen, ameen, inshallah, ameen.
Brother, sister, any comment, any question, inshallah, or you like to repeat any ayah from what the brother Mubeen talk about? Brother Abdul Majid.
Brother Abdul Majid?
I don't have any question which actually about your session tonight. I think your final session on the what is justice itself. Mashallah, I think you covered all the relevant points that were necessary to be discussed. Mashallah. I think I will refer to your homework last time that you gave.
Beautiful, beautiful. Please do. Please do.
Yes, bring an example of justice in referring to Sunnah and Quran itself. I don't want to initiate it. If anybody else is ready for that, I have something to say. But I give a chance to somebody else who can just, work in that direction itself and quote, the Imam, he requested it as a homework itself. Let's see anybody shows up, and if somebody doesn't show up, then I'll do it.
Imam Jamal.
Imam Jamal got a comment.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, brother Mubeen?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair for beautiful session as usual. We learn a lot from it. And just I would like to comment on the action of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu when he arrived to Jerusalem and how he dealt with his servant to take a time to ride on the way. Yes, it was a justice in that time. And every condition has a different way of justice. I believe if we do it today, it will not be just neither for the servant or for Amir al-Mu'mineen, because the time is changed. The way people deal with each other has changed, as I believe one of the people came to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and he said to him, why don't you deal with us like Umar ibn al-Khattab? Muawiyah said, Umar ibn al-Khattab learned from Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he had the Sahaba to support him. But who is supporting me? So it depends on the people to support the leader, then the leader can be just or not. If we are not justice with ourselves, our leader will not be justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yes, times have changed. I agree. But this episode should actually make me look at myself and how am I dealing with those around me. If that was the extreme example of the time, the standard of the time, how am I relating to those around me today? And just by emphasizing these standards, we should always be introspective, looking at myself. Rather
Definitely.
than looking at my brother or my sister, what he or she is doing, let me look at myself. So that is the idea of all of this.
Definitely, we have to correct ourselves before we start correcting others.
Absolutely.
And this is the best, this is the highest level of justice, to be just with ourselves before try to just be just with others.
Abdul Majid, you had an example you wanted to bring? I think you mute.
Sorry about that. This example has been talked about many times in our session. I think you did talk also on that. That was the stolen armor. And this gives us the exceptional message as the justice were rendered. This was in the time period of Khilafat of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. And there was something, his armor was lost and he found it in the bazaar itself, and he confronted the guy who had that. So he said that, take it to the court. Let's go to the court. And I think the best thing that we can learn from there, he was Khalifa at that time. And a Jew who lived in a subject under the rule of Amirul Mubeen, Hazrat Ali itself. Hazrat Ali, Amr has gone missing one day, and while walking through the market, he recognized his armor in the possession of a Jew. He went up to the Jew and said, "This is my armor." The Jew retorted, "Witness to prove it." So alternately, he filed a lawsuit. So Hazrat Ali proceeded to the Qazi and laid down the charge of theft against the Jew. And the case came before the Qazi, and both plaintiff and the defendant presented themselves before Qazi. Now here the very critical part starts. Qazi said, without being overawed, like impressed by the Hazrat Ali at the presence of, he was Amir al-Mu'mineen itself, and he said, and let Hazrat Ali to sit in the session itself, and he demanded calmly, without any trace of discomfort or panic. He commenced proceeding. He asked the Jew, "The armor belongs to Hazrat Ali?" the Jew flatly denied it. And thereupon Qazi turned to Hazrat Ali and calmly requested, bring out your witness to support your claim. So Hazrat Ali produced two witnesses. One was his son, Hazrat Hussein, radiallahu anhu, and the other was his freed slave. I think. In his opinion, the evidence of these two was in accordance to Islamic law itself. We have to provide two witnesses, so I think he was justified in bringing these two people. But Qazi addressed Hazrat Ali and bring another witness in place of Hazrat Hassan, because he is your son. The evidence of your son is not just acceptable. So he said that, well, due to the lack of sufficient evidence, a second acceptable witness dismissed the case according to the Sharia law and not according to his personal reliance on the truthfulness of Hazrat Ali itself. Although he knew that Hazrat Ali was telling the truth. The Jew, in the meantime, was observing the entire proceeding with the full attention. On leaving the courtroom, he watched intently to see the reaction of Hazrat Ali, and there was not a slightest bit of, this is something is very, very important to see, that not a slightest bit of annoyance on the face of Hazrat Ali, not a word of displeasure regarding the verdict was uttered, and the Jew, overcome by this sterling character, addressed Hazrat Ali, and thus he said, the reality of situation has become quite clear to me. Your religion is certainly, and that's the outcome. I think that's the gist of the thing that you are talking in this session itself. The reality of this situation has become quite clear to me. Your religion is certainly a true one, and your attitude is its effect. On the Jew continued, and then the armor is yours, and he said that. And I herewith proclaim. And he claimed Shahada itself. He became a Muslim itself. So Hazrat Ali, by the same token, I think this is something, I found out that he in turn presented this armor as a gift to him. And the Jew remained in close association with him until he became a shaheed, a martyr, in the battle itself. So, mashallah, I think, this is a true reflection of the gist of your sessions that you did that. That's what I could figure out. But if somebody doesn't have any other one, I have another one too. So please.
I think our time is up, but the message is very clear. You invite people to the way of Islam with beautiful preaching and action. And this was a beautiful action. So, invitation to Islam can take different forms. It's not just going there and reading the Quran and reading Hadith, but your action is very, very important. So we are on display every time we walk around, we drive around, we interact with humanity. We are displaying Islam, and that's what we should remember. Alhamdulillah, Jazakumullahu khair. I think that's a beautiful example. That was something we touched on very briefly during one of the talks.
That's correct.
And it shows how justice can bring somebody to Islam and can bring a whole community to Islam as well.
Jazakallah.
Imam Muhammad, I think our time is up.
Just Imam Mubeen, for our homework, one hadith, I want you, inshallah, to, if you put it on justice or not. One Sahabi, his name Imran ibn al-Husayn, narrated about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, one time we were traveling with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one woman from Al-Ansar, from Al-Madinah, she has female camel. And the female camel, Naqat, she was walking slowly, or she not listen or not obey. Then the lady, she cursing the female camel. When she cursing her, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard that, and he said, who cursing the Naqa? The lady said, I am, Ya Rasulullah. He said, free her. Take your luggage and free the Naqa, because you cursing the Naqa. What do you think about that?
Justice to animals. Justice to animals, absolutely, considering them. And you see in the instance of the ants are busy actually worshipping Allah in their way. Animals, plants, trees, all worship in their way, their gratitude to Allah. So this animal is worshipping Allah while moving slowly. How do we know? So alhamdulillah, yes, I would put it there as an example too. No, you unmute, Imam.
I say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he not waiting right away. He make court and he give the sentence right away, free her.
Yes, absolutely. He doesn't have cards. He's got it all there, right there. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Your dua, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, brother.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka anta samiul alim. Wa tub alayna innaka anta tawwabur rahim. واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وذنوب والدينا ومشائخنا وجميع المؤمنين أجمعين. Ya Ghafur Rahim, we thank you for presenting us with the deen of Islam. We thank you for this invitation. We ask you for the ability to fulfill the responsibility of this deen. Ya Ghafur Rahim, we ask for your forgiveness for the many mistakes that we make knowingly and unknowingly. Forgive us for our oversights, Ya Ghafur Rahim. Ya Ghafur Rahim, those of us who are sick, those who are ill, those who are hurt, paining, suffering in some way, Ya Ghafur Rahim, cure them, return them to your service, reward them for their hardship. Ya Ghafur Rahim, those that have passed, lighten their graves, widen their graves, save them from the torment in the graves, grant them forgiveness, grant them Jannah, raise them among the righteous, raise them among the prophets, Ya Ghafur Rahim. Ya Ghafur Rahim, our children, the young bearers of the flag of Islam into the future, give them confidence, give them knowledge, give them perseverance, let them qualify to lead this deen going forward. Give them the confidence, help them stand on their feet with confidence, Ya Ghafur Rahim, so that they may be able to reflect Islam the way it should be. Ya Ghafur Rahim, wherever in this life our Muslim brothers and sisters suffer invasion, victimization, persecution, injustice, starvation, victimization, Ya Ghafur Rahim, give them superpowers of resilience, give them superpowers of Iman, promote them to the highest levels. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم اغفر لأهل القبور من المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات، ارفع لهم الدرجات وكفر عنهم السيئات يا رب العالمين. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم اجعلنا منهم يا رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. I don't know, is brother Ibrahim not here tonight?
No, I miss him tonight. Sister Hala can give him the message.
Okay. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. We miss many brother, sister. The one who is sick, I think Sister Noor, inshallah, should be okay, inshallah. And all the brother, all sister. Jazakallah khair, brother Mubeen. Allahumma barik lakum fima razaqakum. Jazakumullah khair.